This is the Missouri, a Tier 7 premium American battleship. It's available in the forge for 30,000 steel badges and is therefore one of the rarest ships in the game. I'll have a link to a video down below that explains how I acquired the Missouri. But the Missouri is basically an Iowa with a radar. And Iowa has a little bit more hit points and a little longer range, but the Missouri does have something that the Iowa does not have. We'll get into all that with the setup of the ship and the commander, who is William Sims. His base trait is built to last. It increases the hit points per ship tier by 380. As for inspirations, I have Andrew Cunningham for concentrated devastation. Battleship's main battery shell grouping is improved, and Robert Ujard Borer. The battleship's armor-piercing shell penetration is improved as well. And the first skill is flammable cannoneer. Battleship's main battery range and shell grouping is improved, but it is at the risk of catching fire. And if this becomes too much of a problem, I will go with not the one for nuisance, but right now I'm going with flammable cannoneer. Second skill is gyrating drill bits. The battleship's main gun traverse speed is improved, as is its armor-piercing shell damage, though it is at the cost of the ship's maximum speed. Marksmanship is the third skill. The dispersion of the main battery is improved, though it is at the cost of a rudder shift time. And these three skills are the accuracy skills for the American battleships, but you can see each one does have a detriment to it, whether it's risk of catching fire, maximum speed of the ship, or the rudder shift time. The fourth skill is reaching out XXL, and it increases the main battery range once again. Legendary skill is will to rebuild. The amount of HP recovered is improved, but it is at the cost of the repair party duration, which gets a knock of 40%. The special effect is the auto repair when the HP is equal to or less than 20%, but that requires that you're within 2.75 kilometers of an allied ship. If I go up to legendary rank 4, that will max out to 3.5 kilometers. All right, let's get into the upgrades for the Missouri. First upgrade is AA Guns Mod 2, and this really maxes out the AA guns on the ship. You do get a 100 rating after you take this upgrade. And the second upgrade is Propulsion Mod 2. Time taken to reach full power when accelerating is cut in half here, improved by 50%. Third upgrade is the Concealment System Mod 1. Detectability range is improved by 10%, and the incoming fire dispersion is improved by another 5%, and this kind of doubles up on the incoming fire dispersion of the premium permanent camouflage that you have at 4.5%. This adds another 5% to that, and I found that it really does make a difference in a standard match. Fourth upgrade is the Artillery Plotting Room. It improves the dispersion of the main battery, and the Missouri, just like the Iowa, is pretty darn accurate. All right, let's check out the loadout. You have your high explosive shells, armor piercing shells, which we'll get into in a minute. Damage control party consumable. Duration is 20 seconds with a reload time of 76 seconds, and there is an unlimited number of those consumables. Repair party consumable partially restores the ship's HP by repairing any light damage at the rate of 585 hit points per second. And this is a little lower than the Iowa, but it's not a huge detriment. Duration is 16.8 seconds. Reload time is 76 seconds, and you have 3 of these consumables. And then here you have the radar consumable, and this is a big deal on the Missouri. The Iowa does not have this. In fact, no other battleships in the game have a radar, and the radar on the Missouri is among the top 4 in the game, as it turns out. Detection of ships is 9.5 kilometers, which is pretty good. Duration is 35 seconds, which is awesome. There are only a few more ships. that have a 40-second duration of the radar, and I think one or two others have 35 seconds, but the Missouri does have an outstanding radar, as it turns out. Reload time is 171 seconds, and you have two of those consumables. And at 35-second duration, you can potentially get two main gun salvos off while the radar is running, as we'll see. And here I've got the boosters, and in particular I've got the Epic Battle Booster, which will really max out the main battery range here, as you see, and I've been using that as much as I can to really make this more comparable to the Iowa, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And a camouflage ship comes with a Type 9 Premium, a permanent camouflage. Sea detectability range and incoming fire dispersion is 4.5% respectively. And the hit points, survivability hit points is 67,660. The Iowa has over 70,000, but that is because of the upgrade slots. The Iowa does have default upgrades, which the Missouri does not have, so that's why the Missouri takes a hit on the hit points and the main battery range, but it does have an advantage in the armor-piercing shell damage, as we will see in a second. Armor is 6 to 439 millimeter. Torpedo damage reduction is 25%. Artillery, you have 9 16-inch guns. They reach out to 19.9 kilometers with this setup and build. Reload time is 30 seconds, which is respectable. Traverse time is 32.7 seconds, which is okay. HE shell damage is 5,700 with a 36% chance of setting fire, which is really good. And the armor-piercing shell damage is 14,850, and this is a higher number than the maximum shell damage you will see on the Iowa. And this is the one thing that the Missouri has that the Iowa does not have, is a higher armor-piercing maximum shell damage. The firing range at 19.9 kilometers of the Missouri is just a couple tenths shorter than the Iowa, and the survivability hit points up here is just a little bit less than the Iowa. So overall, the Missouri does stand up pretty well to the Iowa, and especially because the armor-piercing shell damage is 14,850, where the Iowa is 14,100, I believe it was. Secondary armament, you have 20 guns. They reach out to 5 kilometers. HE shell damage is 1,800 with a 5% chance of setting fire. I don't really expect to get much secondary action out of the Missouri, as it turns out. And the AA defenses, as I mentioned, is rated at 100. You have a whole bunch of guns here, and you can expect to clear the sky if you have an aggressive aircraft carrier on the red team that wants to try to take you out. So that should be a lot of fun if that should happen and you're in that circumstance. Maneuverability, maximum speed is 27.8 knots. Turning circle radius is 920 meters. Rudder shift time is 20.4 seconds. Concealment. Detectability range by sea is 13.2 kilometers. Range by air is 11.1 kilometers. All right, here's the armor scheme on the Missouri, and you can see this does look exactly like an Iowa. So if you're familiar with the Iowa's armor, you will not have any surprises here on the Missouri. And here is the Citadel. You can see that on the top here, you do have 15 to 16 millimeter armor, and then you have 25 to 26 millimeter armor up on top. So if you get a shell that makes it through this turtleback armor right here, you will be pretty vulnerable. And the rest of the Citadel here is 34 to 75 millimeters. And you can do some bow tanking a little bit, I think, with 161 to 399 millimeter armor here on the sides and the front. And the 400 to 999 is the turrets. So even with this, the Citadel is below the waterline, so that is good, and you should be relatively safe. You definitely do not want to expose your broadside to an opposing battleship if you can at all help it, as per usual. Overview, long range, above average main battery range. You hit them before they can hit you, and that is no kidding. 19.9 kilometers. You can pretty much hit any target on the map, it seems like. fast, above average maximum movement speed, and that is great because anyone who's played American battleships knows that they are not the fastest ships in the game. So just like its sister, the Iowa, the Missouri is pretty fast. Big guns. This ship is armed with high caliber main battery guns, and those 16-inch guns do pack quite a wallop at 14,850 maximum damage right there. Missouri was one of the Iowa-class battleships that were the fastest ships of this type in the world. She carried very powerful main battery guns and boasted excellent AA defense and reliable torpedo protection. Entered service in 1944, and there were 6 ships in the series, even though only 4 of them were built. Alright, well that's it for the setup of the ship and the commander. Let's go out in a standard battle where we will talk about the differences between the Iowa and the Missouri in more detail. And we're also going to check out some highlights. Alright, we're in standard, we're in shatter, and I've only had the Missouri for a couple days here. And here I'm checking out the teams. There's a couple of destroyers per team, a bunch of cruisers, 3 battleships per team. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the differences between the Missouri versus the Iowa because that was kind of a big deal. And as I said, I will leave a link to the Iowa versus, or the Missouri versus Iowa video down below. It's the video where I unlocked the Missouri and got to take a look at all the specs before and after I upgraded the ship and compared that to the Iowa. And it really wasn't as bad as what I really thought I would have on my hands here. So to summarize, before any upgrades, the Missouri had 65,000 hit points. Main gun range was 17.4 kilometers, and the armor-piercing maximum shell damage was 13,500, and that's for the Missouri, as I said. For the Iowa, the hit points were 63,900 before any upgrades, 16.6 kilometer main gun range, and armor-piercing shell damage was 13,100. So the Missouri was definitely at an advantage there before any upgrades got applied to both ships. And as I pointed out in that comparison video, it is the 3 default upgrades that the Iowa has that the Missouri does not have. That gives the Iowa a little bit of an edge in 2 of those 3 categories. The Missouri does end up, as we saw, with 67,600 hit points, where the Iowa ends up with around 72,000 hit points after the hull upgrade and the commander setup. Missouri does have 19.3 kilometer main gun range, 19.9 when you use the Epic Battle Booster, while the Iowa has a little bit over 20 kilometer range. And the Missouri definitely wins on armor-piercing maximum shell damage of 14,850, and you will inflict quite a bit of damage on your opponents versus the Iowa, because the Iowa does not have that maximum damage. It has right around 14,100 hit points maximum damage on the armor-piercing shells. And here's this Alaska that's coming out right here, and he's taking some shots. And the Alaskas, what I have found out here is the Alaska can definitely hurt these battleships right here, so you can't really be goofing around with those Alaskas. You got to be very cautious, and the Alaska knows sort of better than to tangle with the Missouri here because he is backing up. He only had a stomach for 1 salvo, it seems like, and he's kind of looking to get out of there. And it's just as well. On just a few hits, we did rack up 17,000 damage already. And here I did hit the heel because I don't want the green bars to move down a little bit, because the ship does get damaged to a point where it cannot recover HP if you let that go a little bit too long. So I've been playing around with keeping track of how many green bars I have before I hit the heal booster, and that all depends on whether you're on fire and you're really in the kind of a situation where you're going to be under attack by a whole bunch of ships. And here's this Worcester right here taking on the Massachusetts, and the Worcester player must be pretty good because he has no fear. He's getting some misses over here from that Massachusetts, and personally I would not do this in my Worcester, but my teammate does, and maybe it's because the guns on the Massachusetts here are completely pointed in the wrong direction, and that is a good play there on the Worcester. But you do have to get out of there before the Massachusetts turns around and gets his guns on you. So here I did get a couple more hits and basically doubled my damage output here. I'm up to 35,000 on 21 main gun hits. And we're just going to wait and see if the Massachusetts is going to come around. I'm kind of using this island for cover, sort of like as if I am a cruiser. And I have noticed that the shell trajectory here of these shells is a little bit higher arcing than I was used to on battleships, and there's nothing wrong with that. So here, you know, just on 3 hits, we do get quite a bit of damage right there, and we're up to 45,000 damage on 9,100 more damage hit points there we got on that last salvo. And here's the Alaska. He's feeling kind of brave, so he's kind of inching up around here, but he really doesn't want to come over here and really engage us. So we're going to move out of the way, but not before we take some more hit points off of that Alaska. But we are going to move into the gun range here of the Massachusetts, and luckily, as unbelievable as it seems, his guns are still pointing in the wrong direction. That is awesome. Now they're starting to point in the right direction, and he did take a couple shots at us. But we are going to come over here and try to finish this guy off. And the Worcester's coming out blocking for us, so hooray for the Worcester. He's doing us right there by rushing the Massachusetts like that, and I just do not understand why that Worcester hasn't been obliterated yet. Maybe the Massachusetts player is focused on the Missouri. That tends to happen a lot, but I would think that Massachusetts would definitely try to take out this Worcester right here. And there, he didn't have time to do that because he got taken out. We're up to 61,000 damage. The Worcester is still pretty much intact there, saying good job. So I agreed with him a little bit there, I guess. And now this Alaska is getting a little bit braver, and he's going to inch his nose out. And he is one of 2 cruisers to do this throughout the match, and it's not really going to go that well for him here. So here he's inching out, his guns are pointed in the wrong direction, and he is going to get blapped right here. And he's going to quickly back up and, decided that wasn't a great play. That was 16,000 more damage. We're up to 77,000. And the match is, it's even on ships, but it's not looking that great on the scorecard up there. We're down by about 140 points. And here is a Des Moines. I hit the radar by accident. That's what happens on these controllers. You accidentally hit the wrong thing, but whatever, no harm. And this Des Moines is completely getting wiped out here by these main guns. So his best play is to do what he does and hit reverse and basically get out of dodge as quick as possible. And I'm turning around as fast as I can. I'm trying to hit the left rudder as best I can to give maximum left rudder to come around and try to get this guy with another shot and maybe end him. But just a couple thousand more damage and he is gone. He's successfully gotten around the back of the island, and I'm just going to turn right around and come in here, and I'm going to think about trying to wipe him out. Actually, he doesn't have any torpedoes. He does have fast firing guns, and the AP potential on a Des Moines is nothing to be trifled with. So you definitely have to be careful about that. But holy cow, we're up to 95,000 damage already. 52 main target hits, a destroyed ship, 8 secondaries somehow. So, you know, I said you can't really rely on the secondaries, but we did get 8 hits. So we did get close enough where the secondaries went off. And here's this Alaska. I think that's probably the same guy that was toying with me earlier by sticking his nose out there. And again, I really am kind of cautious of rushing out here without really knowing what's on the other side of this island here. So you can see that I am slowing down a little bit, and I'm gonna, you know, think about it before I go rushing in and try to finish these guys off. I want to make sure that I don't have a surprise. I'm not really sure where the red team destroyer is. According to the mini map, kind of looks like the red team destroyer is sort of in front of me, and maybe that smoke screen up ahead is the red team destroyer. So he is far enough away from me to where I can come around here and try to engage the Des Moines and that Alaska over there. They're both 5.2 kilometers away. So I'm going to be looking to close in over here. I think there's going to be some tight maneuvering once I get around. And okay, so that's a sonar. I assume that's from the Des Moines. I guess it could be from the Alaska as well.
Battle ends in 5 minutes.
It's from one of those ships, that's for sure. And I believe they both have radar. So, and frankly, right now I forget which one has sonar in addition to radar. For all I know, they both could. In the end, though, it really doesn't matter. And we have inched up a little bit closer, and now we've just went down again. As soon as I say we inch up a little closer, we get one of our ships destroyed, and now we are at a big-time disadvantage, except for the fact that we have captured 2 bases, and we're kind of racking up the points here. And now we're going to, I don't know if we're going to catch them really quick. We have to destroy a ship or 2 before we can really catch them. But I'm working to come around here. And you can see the tight maneuvering that I have to do here. But our team did do a great job by capturing those bases, so we are in a good position there on that front. And there are the Summers. Let those torpedoes go at these guys. Kind of hoping that, yeah, there you go. He takes out the Alaska. And now we are ahead in the match. So that was all it took, was a destroyed ship. It looks like it was the Des Moines that did have the sonar running. And we have no more radar, so I can't fire up the radar to try to see where the Des Moines is. But I'm going to come around here, and I'm just going to basically confront the guy. Here you see, here's another cruiser sticking his nose out, but it will definitely not go as well for the Des Moines as it went for the Alaska. This guy is not going to be around much longer. As soon as I can get a good shot on him. There you see one incidental hit, got 2,000 hit point damage right there, and he's really whittling me away here. But here I'm going to get both of these guns on him and take a shot there, and I just blow right through him with 30,000 damage and a devastating strike. We're up to 125,000 damage. 2 destroyed ships, couple Citadel hits right there. And this match is looking like it's going to be a come-from-behind victory, because we were down a little bit. I sort of think we were down most of the match, actually. All right, well, that was a big-time victory. 563,000 credits, 125,000 battle performance damage on 56 main target hits, 2 destroyed ships, a couple Citadel hits, a fire somehow, even though we weren't running HP, maybe it was a secondaries, 3 defended, and 1 captured flag on a devastating strike medal. Let's see how we did on the team result. All right, well, second place overall, 2,700 XP, which is not that bad. That Summers player, Max Payne, shout out to him, 2,800 XP. He did great. Good game all around, everybody. That was awesome. Let's see how we did on the economy tab. Oh, wow, look at that. 443,000 credits by the time it was all said and done. And that's the one thing we haven't talked about yet, is the economy changes for the Tier 7 premium ships. they now have a 55% boost rather than 15% boost in credits earned during any matches. So that's another thing that the Missouri has that's better than the Iowa, because the Iowa is not a premium ship. So you will not earn as much money as with a Missouri because it is a premium Tier 7 ship. Well, that's it for the Missouri in one of my early matches with it. Yes, it does have a hefty price tag, but maybe as you've seen now, the Missouri does have some benefits that the Iowa does not have, specifically with the economy and the credit boosting and the armor piercing maximum damage. And as we saw, the hit points were not really that far down from the Iowa, and certainly the main gun range at 19.9 kilometers is up there as well. This is the Jaguar, and I'll see you on the high seas. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe if you like it.